Okay. Are we working here? Looks like we are. Let me get this up. There we go. Welcome to the very first stream on this channel. Nothing has blown up yet, which is a good sign. Okay. Let me share this real quick. Don't forget to share this also, guys, if you would. Very helpful for the algorithm. Also, how's my audio? Let me reposition my mic here. Okay. So I should be able to see the stream here on my channel. Yep, there it is. And the thumbnail's showing. That's nice. I was hoping the stream here. Nope. Almost got an echo there. All right, let me share this out. All right. So today we are going to be looking at some cut content from Mushoku Tensei Season 2 specifically, from Annie News. And I'm kind of excited because I downloaded the light novel on Audible because they're putting the light novels on Audible right now. By the way, if you didn't know about that, yes, the light novels are now showing up on Audible. Very slowly, but they're coming out. And I got really interested in a lot of the Skip stuff, and I've known about Andy News for a while. I watched a lot of his videos when he was doing the Don Machi stuff, which was really good. So link should be in the description for his channel. I'm pretty sure I put it down there. If you guys aren't familiar with Andy News, definitely go check him out. Otherwise, I'm just gonna kind of be watching this in live, reacting to it, and then if you guys have any questions or anything you want to add, anything you want to talk about, just let me know. It's 12 a.m. Oh, it is? It's 12 a.m. right now where I am. Oh man, it's 12 p.m. where I am right now. So, I know those timings are like way off, but this isn't a typical time that I would normally stream either. This was just a good time I had to test this out. Um, I'm not sure exactly what time I'm going to specifically decide that I'm going to stream on this channel, but I'll figure it out. Philippines. Oh, okay. I got you. I got you. Yeah, when I was looking at my analytics, I've been looking at like the people who watched my channel, and it's like 90% US, it's like 8% Japan, then like 1% Hindi, and then the rest is the Philippines. So yeah, it's an interesting makeup. Anyway, so I think I saw the first two of these videos, or at least the first one. I think I watched it over on Twitch at one point, but I never got to check it out on YouTube, and I kind of forgot what a lot of the stuff was, so we might as well get a refresher here. All right, so this is a test stream anyway, so we'll see how it goes. Also, let me know how the audio sounds for the video.
Out of all the new characters introduced in Season 2, Episode 0, Princess Ariel is by far the most important.
How's that sound? Can you guys hear that okay, or is it too low, or do I need to make any adjustments? Let me know before I go any further. Hold on here. Let me switch this account real quick so I can share it over here too. I have way too many like Twitter, Facebook, and all kinds of accounts. I just got too much stuff going on, man. I got so many things. Too low. My volume is at max. Okay, I'll turn it up a bit. Hold on. I'm just trying to share this one more time. I should probably share this in my Facebook group too. User opted out of the platform. Oh, yeah? Okay. Well, it looks like I'll share it manually then. Yeah, guys, take this opportunity to share it if you haven't already. I'm going over to my Facebook page to share mine now. All right. What's up, JB? Welcome to the stream. All is well indeed. Uh, okay. All right, another volume check. I'm going to start the video. Let me know if you guys can hear it okay.
She may have taken a backseat to Fitz for the duration of the episode, but in the novels her
Is that
identity
good?
is shown to be much more than
Versus
just
my
a
voice?
second princess.
Because I want you guys to
She's
still be able
this
to hear me
lustful,
over the video,
intelligent
just
woman
in case.
who also happens to be the sole person capable of saving the...
That good? Second season was really good. We're going to be talking about light novel spoilers for the second season, though, so it's up to you if you want to stick around, JB. But I really thoroughly enjoyed the second season. So there's bound to be okay. Just making sure. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. Okay. Okay, so let's get this started. I believe this specific episode is about Princess Ariel, so we get some background information on her and her actual significance in the story.
Out of all the new characters introduced in Season 2, Episode 0, Princess Ariel is by far the most important. She may have taken a backseat to Fitz for the duration of the episode, but in the novels her identity is shown to be much more than just this second princess. She's this lustful, intelligent woman who also happens to be the sole person capable of saving the kingdom from its current path of destruction. This wasn't really highlighted during her scenes in the anime, but it is done exceptionally well through the thoughts of her guardian mage, Derek. And it's that along with some Asuran history that I want to cover here in our first episode of cut content for Season 2.
Yeah, I haven't finished the light novel. I mean, I've barely scratched the surface. I just read the first one. Well, audiobooks. Can you say you read a book if you listen to the audio? If you listen to the audiobook, can you still like go around and be like, yeah, I read that? Or will some book people kind of jump down your throat for that one? Sort of. I don't know. I can't like, it's hard for me to sit down and read because I got like brain fuzz. So there's like static going on in my head 24/7, and it's hard for me to visualize and conceptualize stuff when I'm reading it myself. But if it's being read to me, then my imagination can go wild. I can kind of take it all in.
So, as we jump back into the world of Mushoku Tensei, let's take a look at Princess Ariel and the not included parts of her backstory. All of which is spoiler-free, of course. Let's get started. Episode 0, Part 1. The Princess of Asura and the Angel, covering the extra chapter from Volume 3 of the light novel. For those unaware of where we are, this is the Silver Palace of Asada, the largest, most beautiful castle in the world, located in the largest, most populous city in the world. What looked so elegant and refined on the outside, though, was actually home to this repulsive, never-ending struggle for power. Day in and day out, the nobles housed within would constantly plot against, deceive, and betray each other.
Sounds about right. Pretty typical stuff. Bunch of nobles fighting over power because they ain't got nothing better to do. They got too much money and time on their hands. So they're just in a constant, consistent power struggle. Nothing new here.
It was a constant war in which absolutely no one could be trusted. One that would remain uninterrupted up until the events of the displacement incident. So, with Sylphie's arrival marking the beginning of a major shift in the way these wars were waged, it's this episode that begins the story of how all that was set in motion. Starting with Princess Ariel and her usual visit to the Royal Lily Garden. Now, there was a number of other flower-specific gardens from which she could choose from, but the palace's lilies were by far her favorite. So much so that she would come here every 3 days and drink tea with only her guardian knight and mage. The reason she was never accompanied by anyone else was because no one would dare approach her and her unparalleled beauty. You see...
Oh really? That was the reason? Is because she was too beautiful to approach? Is that what... I mean, I guess we're talking about a bunch of nobles though, right? All right, I guess.
As a princess widely considered to be the most beautiful to have ever lived, to
The
even
most
consider
beautiful
doing
to
such
have
would
ever
likely be
lived.
perceived as rude. So there wasn't a single person brave enough to try and drink tea with her here. It would only ever be herself and her two sworn defenders. As for who those two were, the first was her knight named Luke, whose identity is something that will likely be revealed at a later time. All you need to know now is that he's an intermediate rank in the sword god style, still in his early teens, and every woman in the castle can't...
Bro, Luke is 14 right here? What's up, Random? Welcome to the stream. Holy crap, dude. Luke is... So they're young. Alright, so... Alright, yeah, okay, so they're young at this point. Which is weird, because the conversation that they were having, I don't know if you guys paid attention to the conversation that they were having at this table in that moment, but it wasn't a conversation that 14-year-olds should be having.
resist being entranced by him. There isn't a single other man in the castle who's admired as much as he is. Moving on to Ariel's mage Derek, he was a bit older at around 16 years old, but was only a mid-level noble unlike his knightly counterpart. The reason he'd been assigned such a prestigious position was because...
So these naming conventions for the last names, it's Red Bat and Gray Rat, like is that like a common thing throughout like nobility, is like a color and an animal? Is that the thing? I don't know. I'm just asking because that just seems seems like there's a pattern there.
Because noble magicians also capable of advanced magic were quite the rarity in just about any part of the world. He was a top graduate from the illustrious Asura Institute of Magic. Now, since no one was ever present to hear what these three would discuss, their topics of conversation were always a key interest around the castle. As for what they were talking about today, well, I'm sure it was just as important as it always is. A discussion pertaining to the nipples of a maid Luke had bedded the other day. So, if you didn't...
Yeah, you see that? You hear that? He was 14, by the way. That's why I'm like, that conversation is kind of odd. And they're knights. They're like her knights. I mean, I guess you'd never be able to tell. Like, if somebody had asked me how old they were at that point, I wouldn't have never guessed that. But anime is really ambiguous like that, so who the hell knows at any given moment, really.
Quite catch on to what they were discussing here. That was the entirety of their conversation. Luke was describing his encounters with the maid, and Ariel was impressed, suggesting she'd take that same maid into her own bed one day. Something you may not have picked up on instead, though, was the fact that both Ariel and Luke were quite the lustful individuals. In fact, most, if not all, Asura nobility were like this. Since the Asuran kingdom had never experienced war or famine within its entire 400-year history, a large majority of...
God damn, that's a good track record, dude. They have never experienced war or famine in their entire 400 years of existence? That's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty good. No wonder the nobles here are bored as hell.
Of nobility took part in this scandalous behavior. As for Ariel and Luke in particular, both had a habit of preying on the palace's maids and the daughters of mid-rank nobles. For Luke, this was rather common knowledge, but for Ariel, not many were aware that she was both bisexual and a sadist. That being the case, the life she lived was a carefree one filled with pleasure. She couldn't care less for the devious plotting taking place within the castle, but instead basked in a more refined simplicity. It was a core aspect of Asura as a whole, since the nation was known for their indulgence in the more decadent things.
More decadent, he says. Yeah, okay. All right. In other words, it's a nation full of perverts is what they're trying to say.
So that their refined taste had actually become this elite kind of status symbol for them. Now, a very important thing to note about Ariel is that while she is fourth in line to the succession of the throne, as the only true daughter of the queen consort, she's actually the one and only fully legitimate heir to the throne. The rest are half-siblings born from mothers that aren't the true
You're
queen
too slow,
consort.
Random. You gotta
This
speed
isn't
up.
something widely discussed, because if that news was to ever reach someone like Gravel, then it would only be a matter of time until assassins would come for her. I mean, it was already bad enough that nobles were constantly swearing fealty to her. It's not like they knew that she was the true heir, but their own self-interests painted the image that she was vying for the throne herself.
Ain't that tripped out, man? Like these people just like they're just like, yeah, what's her face is, I don't really like the way she's been operating lately. Send an assassin after her. Like it's just such a normal exchange, like sending somebody a letter. It's that common. Just like, yeah, go assassinate this person, and then y'all play assassination tag until one of you finally croak. I never thought I would use the term assassination tag, but that's still that's basically what it is.
Which, as we know, she wasn't. So, Ariel simply preferred to live her life the way that she wanted. To even consider participating in this power struggle was just absolutely absurd to her. It didn't really matter how high up she was in the succession ladder, because to her there was no way she'd ever stand a chance against her brothers. She was just too young and had too few allies. Thus the reason she instead chooses to indulge herself in the simple pleasures. Now, they didn't really show this in the anime, but the reason Derek so vehemently fought against that idea was because he truly believed Ariel could bring positive change to the kingdom. It's not that the first or second prince were unworthy successors.
Oh, so he wanted her to actually, okay, because she's not interested in taking the throne, at least at this point in the story, or she wasn't interested at all up until this point. But one of her bodyguards really thought that she could make change. But like, well, what kind of change though? That's what I'm thinking. Like, well, what change could she be looking for in a place where basically everybody has been living a luxurious life? Like, there's been no issues, no famine, no wars in this place for all these years. So, like, what's the change that they're looking for?
To the throne, but it's just that their position as king would be simply ordinary. Sure, they'd become respectable rulers like all the others before them, but their standard approach to ruling would mean that nothing would change.
Well,
The
what
Asuran
though?
kingdom
Like,
would
what?
continue with that constant power struggle like it always has. Nobles
Oh,
would continue to plot against each other without consequence, and all that time, energy, and money spent doing so would be wasted instead of actually being put towards something useful.
like what though? See, and that's the thing. Like, in this particular context, he's saying like they could put their money and their attention towards something more useful. But in a place where basically everybody is living above the normal standard of living, like what do you mean? Because like I don't know if this place has like a slums or something like that. Are there places and where people aren't being taken care of and stuff here? Is their military weak and needs some, bolstering? Like what is it? I don't know. Because it sounds like this place is a freaking paradise. Everybody's perverts and trying to murder each other just for fun because they're bored.
Asuda wouldn't march towards progress like all the other nations surrounding them, and there was no doubt that that would eventually lead to them becoming vulnerable to foreign influence. If you're wondering why no one has tried to warn against this, well, that's because no one has really seen the need to. You see, in the 400 years of the Asuran Kingdom's history, not once have the people living within ever gone hungry. There was
Okay,
never
right.
a time when the people had become so discontent that they felt the need to rise up and change anything.
Exactly.
So, with nothing out there to challenge the status quo, the nobility saw zero need for anything to change. Instead, they spent all their time focusing solely on the progression of their own status, resulting in the kingdom itself becoming stagnant. Now,
Okay, so if we're talking stagnation as far as maybe innovation, because I know a lot of the other kingdoms around in the area are like focusing on magic and they're progressing their nations by inventing new magic, new agriculture, like new stuff. In that sense, maybe these people have gotten so complacent that they feel like they don't need to grow their kingdom or grow their economy or something in that way. Maybe, but otherwise, like, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I feel like that's where everybody's at in this situation. I could be wrong though.
there was still progress being made in the fields of magic and technology, but that progress was nowhere near close to that which was being made by their neighbors. The King Dragon Realm just south had already overtaken them in technological development, and the Magic Nation's research in the arcane was accelerating far faster than their own. So, even if the Asura Kingdom still had overwhelming advantages in other areas right now, there was no telling where their position would be in a century or so.
Okay, I see where he's going. I see where he's getting at. So basically, he's saying while all these other kingdoms are bolstering their magic, their technology, and stuff, Asura's not doing really anything. So even though they haven't been attacked this whole time and they haven't had all these issues, they're basically gearing up to be, because once all these places bolster their defenses and they get stronger, like they're gonna look at Asura like, yeah, we want that. And what are you gonna do to stop them? Not a motherfucking thing. You ain't gonna do nothing. Okay, all right. I see it from that perspective. Because they're talking about the future.
I mean, even now, the King Dragon Realm was already looking for any weaknesses so they could claim the Asuran Kingdom's land as their own.
Oh, so other nations were already looking to do that. So, okay. By the way, you like my potato? I am a very handsome potato. At least my wife tells me that. Everybody else says I look like a freak, but, you know, my wife's opinion's the only one that really matters.
The mountains lining its border made invasion practically impossible, but if technology made something like that negligible, then it really was only
By the way, I actually made this avatar myself. Like, I genuinely made this entire, like, the whole thing. It started off as just a PNG of a potato. I went and found the assets to find like a 3D one, and I bought the headphone asset, and I actually made this hat with my logo on it all through this 3D software. So it took me probably like 2 or 3 weeks to make this rig and set everything up. It was I'm pretty happy with it, all things considered. Sasha from Attack on Titan. Yeah, I gotta stay away from her. I don't think we could ever cultivate a real friendship.
Time until some foreign power tried to intrude on their own. That being the case, Derek believed Ariel to be the only person capable of changing Asura for the better. The way he perceived her intelligence and wit outshone all the others he'd ever come across before. It was actually the very reason he applied for this position in the first place. He felt she could become a ruler like Goddess Freyan, the woman who'd led humankind during the latter stages of the Laplace War. As a ruler beloved by pretty much everyone, Derek truly believed Ariel could do the same. I mean, she already had quite a few people willing to lay down their lives for her, so really it was just a matter of making herself more influential. Now, as Derek continued to ponder the best path to make Ariel queen, he had actually stepped out to go to the bathroom. And it was while there that he just so happened to overhear 2 individuals scheming against Ariel. He didn't know who.
Oh, this is different. This didn't happen in the anime. Yeah, we got to overhear their conversation, but there was no actual character in the show that did, or at least we weren't told or shown that.
Who it was that was talking, but they did mention how Gravel viewed her as a threat. Something about her popularity with the common folk being greater than his own. That fact was a little strange considering her lack of interest in politics as a whole, but they couldn't rule out that she could be laying the groundwork for something bigger. Really, it was all just due to Ariel's natural charisma. It wasn't her intention to become this public icon, but
I used why is my brain breaking right now? The Snapchat filter creator thingy. They got it to where, you know how like you go on Snapchat or TikTok or whatever, they got all those filters. Well, if you go to Snapchat, they actually have where you can create your own filters. I made it through their little system. It's pretty easy too. It's very straightforward.
because she liked to show face at numerous external functions, it was only natural that people become infatuated with her. So, seeing as how it was best to solve this problem sooner than later, the 2 shady individuals decided they should make the arrangements now, leading Derek to want to storm out and kill these men immediately. But with no basis on why he was doing so, To the rest of the nobles, it would just look like Ariel taking action against her brother, an open act of hostility that would surely lead to their.
So this is her brother, who's also in line for the throne, and this is his milk dud ass perverted, whatever the hell he is. I don't know, but yeah.
Demise. That being the case, Derek felt it best to go back and simply warn the princess. Since her brother was already planning to force her into this, the only option she had left was to face it head on. At least that way they could plan more accordingly together. So, as he.
Why do we care about these people? Well, those people in particular, you don't really have to care too much about because they're not really that important. The key person about this episode is the princess. She's the only really relevant part of this whole situation for now.
He hurried back to the garden. Derek's mind contemplated on whether he'd be able to protect the princess or not. Sure, he'd said multiple times he'd lay down his life for her, but when it truly came down to a life-or-death struggle, he wondered whether he'd actually be able to do it or not. Well, as it would turn out, Derek would have to wonder no longer, as the displacement incident would place a Terminator boar right in the garden where Ariel was sitting. Since both her and Luke were occupied in conversation though, neither had noticed this D-rank monster appear behind them. Only Derek saw it as he emerged back to the gardens from the lavatory. At first he believed this to be the work of the nobles he'd just overheard, but no nobleman was capable of smuggling such an enormous beast here.
Okay, so he was heading back when this thing appeared, which is why he was the first to get attacked, because he hadn't made it back to the gazebo or whatever yet. Okay. This thing one-shotted him. It took him out with one hit, man. Smashed by a freaking, what do they call it, an annihilator boar? 14 years old. Done.
Especially not to the heart of the palace like this. Regardless of what little sense it made though, the only thing that mattered now was ensuring Ariel's safety, a task we saw cost his life. His initial shout did alert the princess that the boar was coming, but the only thing he could do after was place himself between her and the monster, leading to the fatal blow that would shatter his ribs and crush his organs. Then, right after having his spine shattered on the wall 5 meters away, that's when Derek knew that he was dying. He would look around to see if Ariel was safe, but he was surprised to see that she was actually running towards him. She had disregarded everything else and went straight to hold the guardian mage that just protected her. So, as she held the dying Derek in her arms, his final words were to take the throne and make Asada into a better country.
Oh, so it was like a dying wish thing. Okay. I mean, I guess that's a motivation. Yeah, I'm not interested in taking the throne at all. Oh wait, my friend got smashed, and his rib cage got smashed from an impact, and then he slammed his back into a wall, and it broke his spine. Yeah, that was his last wish. So yeah, I guess I'll do that now.
All while praying to Saint Millis in hopes that some miracle would keep the princess alive. He didn't expect his prayers to work, but when they were actually answered by the angel who'd fallen from the sky, Derek's heart filled with peace knowing that Ariel was safe now. He knew there was still hope for the country that only Ariel could save. So, with the Fatoa incident costing this young mage his life, in return it provided Ariel with a new and different purpose. Perhaps she really could make the change that Derek envisioned. Perhaps she could strengthen Asada to the point it could conquer the entire continent. If there was any person who could achieve it, it was the princess that this guardian mage had just died for, bringing us to the end of this turning point for Ariel. So, with that being what you need to know about Ariel, the next episode will cover the rest with Fitz, then once that's done...
Okay, so we got some background information on Ariel. Like I said, I did see these episodes before. It's been a while since I've seen these first two. But it was nice to get a refresher. So, like, we really know her background and how she decided to... No, she's not dead. She's alive. She's very much alive. Although, if she didn't end up leaving... She ended up leaving her kingdom to go to the school that the other characters were at. Derek Redbat was the first person who sacrificed his life for the princess. Oh, yeah.
Before
And
I
he,
took the Google,
he took one for the team for sure. All right, so this next one's going to be about Fitz. aka Selfie, the the angel that fell from the sky and killed that beast. Man, that show was nuts, dude. I haven't seen that show in a while, but I remember I'm just like, nobody's safe. Literally everyone can die in this show. Holy crap.
Personal turning point, so this time we'll focus on Sylphie and her newfound identity as Fitz, the second part to the cut content for the prologue of Mushoku Tensei's second season. Let's get started. Episode 0, Part 2, Guardian Fitz, covering the extra chapter from Volume 4 of the light novel. A key difference that simply wasn't able to be adapted from the novels was the entire mystery surrounding the character of Fitz. You see, unlike how we can clearly see it's Sylphie in the anime, the novels never once made it explicitly clear that Fitz was her. Sure, there were plenty of hints that
Really? That's interesting. So I wonder why the anime went out of their way to do it. Maybe because like in the light novel when they're explaining the character that you can't see, like you're reading it, so you can't really see this character, so they can really kind of trick you into thinking like, "Oh, this is a completely different person." But for the show, they would have probably had a hard time trying to convince it. Like especially if they took it seriously, they're like, "Okay, we're guys, this really isn't Selfie, we promise." Like most people would have been like, "Yeah, okay, sure." Um, so maybe that's yeah, that makes sense. That change of direction probably because there's no way they could have convinced people that this wasn't Selfie. Like we knew.
implied that it was likely her, but with Fitz constantly being referred to as he/him and the only tell being her skilled teacher in silent casting, you were never really certain Fitz was her until later on in the story. So, since that mystery is no longer there, I'll simply refer to Fitz as Sylphie now. Starting with when she was falling, I'm sure the number one question you have is why her hair turned white. Well, similar to how it is in Fate, it was the result of using up all her mana. By succumbing to the fear of the imminent death in front of her, Sylphie unleashed all her mana in a flurry of spells to try and break her fall. She remembered how Rudy mentioned how flying was impossible, but in the attempts where he did try to make it happen, he always put something soft on the ground to fall on. So, taking that lesson into consideration, Sylphie would try every element in hopes of wrapping herself up in something soft.
So her hair changed color because she used all of her mana. But she eventually got her mana back, right? So why didn't her hair change back? Why was it like a permanent change? That's interesting.
Unfortunately for her though, the water wouldn't stick, the wind couldn't provide nearly as much resistance, her earth magic she didn't even know how to control, and the fire would just immediately dissipate. It was a nightmare Sylphie would constantly relive even after surviving by just barely slowing herself down enough. Contrary to what we were shown, however, Sylphie didn't really come out unscathed from it. You see, in addition to her hair turning white from the exhaustive use of mana beyond her limits, she had also broken both her legs in the landing. It wasn't quite the graceful tumble we saw in the anime.
Yeah, they definitely didn't. They definitely didn't mention that. She broke her legs too. Yeah, she just fell on a bed of flowers in the anime, and they're like, "Oh, she's cool." You know, she just fell from the sky, and she's fine. It's cool. But no, apparently, yeah, she broke her legs in the light novel.
Now, where this chapter begins in the novels is right after Sylphie awakens from that exact nightmare. She was already the guardian mage of the princess, and her nightmare had just caused her to wet her bed right in front of Luke. Of course, she was extremely embarrassed, but with Luke knowing the circumstances of her arrival, he was much more considerate than how he normally would be if dealing with a man. In any case, that was much less important when compared to how—
Wait, but Luke knew. Well, did Luke know that she was female at this time? Or did Ariel tell Luke that Fitz was male?
extraordinary of a teacher she was. As a 10-year-old capable of at least intermediate magic in every school, she was quite the prodigy even amongst the other royal mages, especially since she was capable of that silent casting. So, with that catching the eye of the princess, she was taken in as her new guardian mage and equipped with several items that would allow her to do her job better. There were the magical boots of swiftness that let her run twice as fast, a flame-trapping cloak that kept her body temperature constant, gloves of overpowering which halved any...
See, okay, from what I've been hearing, the light novel really goes in detail about the equipment that the characters and stuff wear, but we got none of this in the show. I didn't know about all these, like, gear pieces that she had that did all this stuff. Hold on, let me see.
better. There were the magical boots of swiftness that let her run twice as fast.
So she had boots that let her run twice as fast.
A flame-trapping cloak that kept her body temperature constant.
A cloak that gave her body temperature regulation.
Gloves of overpowering which halved any impact on the hands, then the sunglasses which...
Well, what's that for? The gloves, it says it halves impact on the hands. Like, for what?
surprisingly weren't just to hide her identity. While many of the nobles did see them as disrespectful, they were actually magical items deemed necessary by the king himself. They were a useful tool capable of notifying Sylphie whenever Ariel was in trouble.
What? Dude, hold on. So they weren't... So these glasses actually could notify her if Ariel was in trouble, even if she wasn't around. I thought they were just fucking glasses. That would have been an important detail to know in the end. They never even... Maybe they did, and I just missed it, but I don't remember them touching on that at all.
One that became required after the incident in the garden. So, no matter how far away Sylphie was from Ariel...
And then they said the king recommended that she wear those glasses, though. Which, I mean, I guess makes sense. He's like, okay, these will help you look after my daughter.
So long as she was wearing those glasses, Sylphie would always know if Ariel was in trouble. Now, one of the major clues that gave away Fitz's identity was the peculiar behavior Luke seemed to have while around him. You see, because he would always say how he loved women and hated men, it was rather odd to see him be so kind to a boy like Fitz. To us, we know that's more of a hint that Fitz was actually a girl, but to the nobles who suspected nothing, it was more likely that Luke had started taking an interest in men now. They began to think that perhaps he had finally come to understand the beauty of them. The reason why this is...
Wait, what? Okay, so him being nice to Fitz, who everybody perceived as a boy, made everybody think that Luke was now into dudes. Wait, what?
Is because homosexuality was just as common as being straight. In the Asuran capital,
okay, that's not
existed far
surprising,
stranger
I guess.
sexual preferences than that between two men or two women. So, as the nobles talking came to that conclusion about Luke, they also pondered the origins of Fitz. None knew where it was that he came from, but there was one who did have...
So they thought Fitz was Luke's new little boyfriend? Man, this place is yeah, they really indulged here for sure.
Have some sort of inkling. It was quite a few years ago, but back when a certain Boreas princess was having her 10th birthday, there was a particular person
having health insurance.
Wait, that was Eris.
Stand out there. It wasn't Eris and her less than elegant behavior, but instead the
Oh, so Luke, that's Luke when he was a kid. He is a gray rat. So, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense that he would be there. So he saw this whole thing with Eris.
Teacher who transformed that monkey princess into a ladylike noble. Back when this noble had met Eris before, she was only ever known for neglecting her studies and beating up her classmates. Thus the reason for her nickname as the Monkey Princess. But when this noble returned for her 10th birthday, Eris didn't behave like a monkey at all. Apparently she'd been trained by a mentor 2 years younger. Lord Sados didn't specify who that mentor was, but the way he spoke so highly of him made it seem like it could be the same person Ariel recruited as her new guardian. I mean, this Fitz person did possess much of the same skill after all. Not only was she well versed in
So he thought Fitz was Rudy? That's funny. That's funny. He thought Fitz was the person who trained Eris, but no, he was mistaken Fitz for Rudy. That's kind of interesting.
reading, writing, and arithmetic, but she was supposedly more knowledgeable in magic than even the university professors and was said to regularly beat the knights in training in combat. There also weren't many other 10-year-olds who could just cast magic without saying anything. So, with that being the only knowledge these nobles had to go on, it was rather fair to make the assumption that Fitz might have been Rudy. Regardless of who Fitz was though, nothing changed the fact that he was still a lowborn. And when it came to a peasant being among nobility, there was no lack of criticism to be had from the nobles who looked down on him, much to the point that they just wanted to peel back Fitz's mask and see who was underneath. Now, switching over to Ariel's scheming.
Fucking nosy ass nobles, man. How did they know they were? Well, I guess if you're a noble here, you're probably tied to some family that people recognize. So if people don't recognize you, then chances are you ain't tied to any of the existing families. Therefore, you must be lowborn. Okay. All right, sure. But what about elves? Because, like, even though they can't really tell what Fitz's lineage is, I haven't seen any other elven people in this entire place other than Fitz. So how common are elves in Asura, I wonder?
The noble she was scheming with was none other than Pilamon Noto's Grey Rat, the liege lord of Asura's Milbots region. As for what they were planning together, well, since the main issue was Ariel's lack of influence, the best path to gain some was through the low-end mid-rank nobles. Since all the powerful high-rank ones were already loyal to the first and second prince, it was very unlikely that they would suddenly switch to a much weaker candidate. So, at least by going for nobles much lower down on the ladder, Pilamon could tempt them with positions of higher power within the government.
Yeah, absolutely. Because usually the lowborn and the lesser nobles usually dramatically outnumber the higher ups. So, appealing to the lower end people, you know, that usually is the move.
Then, by focusing on nobles more out in the countryside, she could reach a group of people less affiliated with the continent's political disputes. It was all part of a strategy that looked towards the future. Sure, she may not have power right now, but 10 years down the road when their plans come to fruition, those who supported Ariel would be the ones rewarded greatly. That was the promise that came when joining her faction.
Interesting. So she was just kind of gathering up supporters underground, just like all these kind of lowborn or lesser nobles to basically bolster up her her influence. So like the dude, when her brother was like, yeah, she's up to something, I need to send an assassin to kill her, I don't think she was initially, but now she is, so I guess it's justified now.
Hinted at in the anime was Ariel's discreet gathering of the military's support. To other nobles, the military may have been forgotten due to their lack of importance recently, but if a civil war was to ever break out, whoever controlled the military would always be the one to win. They were a prime asset whose lack of political influence often made them overlooked. So, while Ariel publicly displayed herself as this terrified princess frightened by the disputes of the political ladder, in secret she was gathering allies and preparing to enter the fray herself.
Yeah, you get the military on your side, you win by default, basically. And most of the military is made of what? Either lowborn nobles or peasants. Not very many of them are rich or nobles, that's for sure.
She was doing exactly what her former guardian Derek would have wanted from her. An important aspect of her story that I covered last episode, which you should definitely go watch if you want to understand Princess Ariel.
Already did.
Now, after Sylphie inquired into the status of her lost friends and family, it was here that Ariel would give us an update on the Boreas family. With the incident having removed both their land and all their people with it, any power the Boreas had before was open for the taking by those who opposed them. It took all they had for any of the Boreas remaining to just try and keep their positions of power. So, with that being their primary concern, there was very little being put towards looking for the missing residents. At least that was until the Boreas were taken under the protection of Darius, a high-ranking minister who supported the first prince. With him providing the assets and funding to create a proper search party, this group would grow in size and lead to a story of its own.
Wait,
something
what?
the novels only briefly alluded to.
Is that... So, hold on. So Paul's outfit that he that he put together to search for the missing residents was funded by Darius? That is something I never would have assumed. Really? I guess that fucking milk dud is good for something.
Switching over to Grabble's scheming now, we were given a bit more context as to why Ariel taking the military would be so bad for him.
Sharpening your claws.
I wonder why, though. Like, what was he hoping to gain from that? Maybe loyalty from the Boreas family specifically? Probably. Oh crap, I just accidentally... Hold on. It like skipped episodes there and then went back. Where's that at? Ooh.
Now, but 10 years down the road when their plans come to fruition, those who saw was here that Ariel would give us an update on the Boreas family.
Okay, here
Switching over to Grabble's scheming now, we were given a bit more context as to why Ariel taking the military would be so bad for him. Its position as the strongest...
Isn't it weird, though, how they try to recreate a more Western kingdom? Not really. It's pretty common in anime, I believe. There's a lot of Western influence in a lot of animes and stuff I've seen.
Military in any nation was definitely desirable, but it was more so the fact that half the army itself was common folk. As I mentioned last episode, Ariel's popularity with the commoners was outrivaled by no one. So even with Grabble having numerous allies in the upper chain of command, if a few captains and commanders were to suddenly become loyal to Ariel, any soldiers below them would surely do so too. Consider it a perk of being so popular with the common folk. So, with that being the main thing Grabble was worried about, he would discuss precautions with Darius just like how we saw here. The only things being cut, a few vulgar moments censored in even the uncensored version.
No.
In the next scene with Sylvie
Sounds
and
about
Ariel,
right.
there wasn't really much different with regards to the whole assassination attempt, but the final attack did sever every limb on the assassin's body. It seems getting hit by a direct attack from Sylvie is powerful enough to blow all your arms and legs off. Another excluded detail highlighting Sylvie's prowess is the fact that the poison would have killed her if not for her quick thinking. You see, even as she was in the process of blacking out, Sylvie had still managed to cast detoxification magic on herself.
Oh, after he executed him? Is that why he executed him? Is so he can replace him with his pawn? That's interesting, if that's the case.
If this was any other mage incapable of silent casting, then without a doubt they would have died right there instantly. Fortunately, her use of detoxification combined with the minute amount of poison she was struck by allowed her enough time to live until the doctors got there. So, after having defeated a famed assassin who was active for over a decade, Sylvie's impressions with the nobles improved greatly.
Hold on a second. Hold on. One moment. A famed assassin that was active for over a decade, he says. She looks about the same age as Ariel, which we have confirmed is about 14 years old. So you mean to tell me this assassin has been active for decades? Or for at least a decade? Which means she was murking people at 4? Then again, I don't know how old she is. She looks young, so I mean, I don't know. But like, she looks younger than Ariel in them, so that's an interesting detail. I wonder how old she is. Did they say how old the assassin is?
Greatly. She was finally worthy of the position she was given, and her ability to dispatch enemies without saying a word had donned her the nickname Silent Fits. Many more assassins would attempt to come for Ariel after this, but each and every one would be eliminated by Sylvie. No matter how many.
Eliminated, as in killed? How many bodies Sylvie got under her belt? Like you wouldn't normally think of that. Like when you think of Sylvie like as somebody who kills other people, but like apparently being Ariel's bodyguard, she has killed numerous people.
More would just keep coming. And whenever the Knights Guild would be sent to investigate, they would always be pressured to leave the cases unsolved. Someone clearly didn't want anyone else looking into this. So, with each and every assassination attempt adding to the mental burden on Ariel, the only option to alleviate it was to flee, resulting in her departure for the Magic Academy at the end of the episode and bringing us to the end of this cut content.
Gotcha.
So, that's the prologue for this season.
Interesting. So they just kept sending so many assassins after her, she just had to leave. Because it was becoming a bit too much. That's interesting. And Sylphie killed them all. Yeah, so this is how she got to the Magic Academy with Fitz and Paul. Is because she basically got ran out of her own nation because her siblings kept trying to murder her. That's nuts, man. That's crazy. That's just the thing. All right, well, very informative. So now, like I said, these were the 2 episodes that I was at least a little familiar with. The next few episodes are going to be all new to me, and we're going to get into those next time. But I think this was a pretty good test stream. We went for about an hour, it looks like, I think. Hopefully the quality was good. The sound and everything was fine. Hopefully that all went well. I don't know. I don't really have a schedule or anything like that as far as when I'll be streaming and stuff, but I would like to definitely start streaming more often over here to check out just kind of anime related stuff. I'll be watching Giguk. I'll be watching a lot of just other Annie YouTubers talking about anime stuff. So but yeah, it was awesome hanging out with you guys too. So thank you for stopping by and engaging, especially because ain't nothing harder than doing a stream when it feels like you're just talking to yourself. So you guys ever doing a LO? Well, we could probably do something like that. I don't know yet, but we will definitely take some time and talk that over at some point. But otherwise, thank you for hanging out, guys. Don't forget to share this wherever it is you share things. Sometimes I'm asleep at this hour, so I might miss your live again. Yeah, it probably won't be at this time again. We'll see, though. We'll see. For you, though, when I actually do stream, it might actually be early. It'll be like early in the morning, probably like almost afternoon for you. Because it's like 1 p.m. now. I would probably be streaming about 9 p.m. my time. Maybe. So we'll see. Either way, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm also EST, so